and she walked outside because she wanted to feel the cold air coming from the tropics, the Caribbean. And she was amazed to see her own breath. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Look at that." She's never seen her own breath because of the cold weather. So I felt like I was with someone with that childlike wonder. Even though she was a mature woman with 2 grown kids, she was just, I had the best 40 minutes watching her enjoy seeing the shopping center and Starbucks and Planet Fitness and all that. So there's an innocence. And maybe there's an innocence too, when Brother Erik promises us that he's going to be talking about being loving all the time. How many of you are loving all the time? Zoomers, are you thinking? Welcome. Brother Erik is raising his hand. I saw that. Nobody's raising their hand besides Brother Erik. I'm not either, but I aim for it. It's a goal. So how can we be loving all the time? Any idea? How can you be loving that isn't necessarily with someone you love? It's a big promise he's making us tonight. I want to read what the flyer said. Spiritual power comes from using our inherent qualities and attributes. They are inborn and forever with us. And if you've been coming here every week, I think everyone's been here before, right? That I can see. You know that we are innately peaceful, loving beings, intelligent, kind, blissful, joyful. So something happens to us by the time we get to be adults, I think, right? Back to Brother Erik's blurb. They are inborn, these attributes, and forever with us. So being powerful in the quality of love is to be loving constantly. If I am always loving, I will also always be powerful. Now, here's the promise he makes. So we're going to see what happens in the next hour. Join us tonight to experience your powerful, loving stage. So this implies that we always have a choice. We have a choice to respond after taking a pause and not just react. But what is it that what's going on with us? I read a quote that said, the ego and love cannot coexist. So think about a time when you really had an argument with someone or you didn't like the way you were being spoken to. And you argued in your own defense. What happened? What happens when we do that? The ego. The ego, which is stirred by fear. I'm going to lose status. This person isn't treating me or speaking to me the way he or she should be. Yada, 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 right? So with the freedom to not come from the ego or from our own fears, we can detach and let people be whatever way they need to be in the moment. How can I be loving when someone isn't being loving to me, though? Anybody have any suggestions before Brother Erik comes center stage? I'm sure he's going to talk about this. How can I be loving if they're really not behaving well or have said something about me that isn't true?
Just be quiet and just watch, and then of course it would automatically settle down and mellow down, and you would keep or how he was or she was behaving. So I think if you just maintain the silence and not react, that helps, and that has helped me as well. And I used to respond reactively, and that it used to worsen it. But I've observed that if you stay quiet and just because the other person would start thinking what has happened, so it just mellow down.
That's like a whole 2 paragraphs right there. But the bottom line is it takes 2 to fight, right? So if I don't fight back, and if I'm responsible for their karma, welcome. If I instigate something, then I'm as responsible as they are, and I've gone down to their level instead of staying in my innate qualities. Anyone else have another idea before I turn this over to Brother Erik? Yeah, we have plenty of time.
Um, as per my experience, when somebody is not behaving very nicely, that means something going on inside them. So they are either upset or they are not very happy with themselves. So I just send them blessings. So I send them good wishes. I know they are not feeling very good at that moment. So just some positive energy.
No ego in that, is there? It's unconditional. Why? I'm a soul, you're a soul. That's what we learn here, right? Okay. So I think without further ado, I'm going to ask Brother Erik to come on down. Are you with us, Brother Erik? Anyone else have something to add while he trots down the steps here? No? Okay, so I'm sure he's going to stir the pot and have us thinking very hard and very long. So the love and the ego can't coexist. Here he is. You all know Brother Erik by now. And thank you for joining us this evening. Shanti.
Shanti, and good evening, and welcome to Insight. And I'm hoping that there's going to be insights because I'm going to talk about the power of love. And infinite came in there, and limitless came in there. But I'm going to interject my background on you tonight. And we're going to talk a little more about power, what that means, and maybe how we can look at that and then see if we can tie some threads together. But how many of you think you're powerful? Okay, you're all powerful. It's just a matter of degree. Okay, somehow you all made it here tonight, so you had the ability to make a decision and put that into practice. There might be some who are less powerful who are still on their way. Who knows? But I want you to see if you can understand power, and then we're going to add in some of our meditation concepts. But there's actually a formula for what power is. And if you are powerful, you get things done. That makes some sense? Okay, someone who has no power can't get things done. The power is the ability to do things, work. And when you are able to do something, and you have a formula and you involve time, the amount of work over the time is power. So if you're powerful, you can do a lot in a short time. If you're not very powerful, it takes you a long time to do very little because you're measuring work. And it's productive work. Just because you're expending energy doesn't mean that you're accomplishing something. Does that make some sense? Do we have an understanding of what it means to be powerful? You get things done. And if you get it done in a shorter period of time, you are more powerful. Oh. And so you can look out in your world and sometimes they'll talk about cars as a more powerful engine. And therefore you would know that if you've got a more powerful engine, you might be able to go faster. And if you've got a small little engine, it takes longer time. It's not as powerful. You go a mile in a minute, it's one thing. You go a mile in a half a minute, there's something else happening there. And so when we start to think of being powerful, we're kind of engines in that way. And you can look and see and measure, and we don't often see it that way, but when you accomplish something, you get things done, you're, in this definition, powerful. And everybody gets things done and everybody is powerful, but it's now a degree. Sometimes it takes someone all day to do something. And sometimes people can, just what's next, what's next, what's next. There's a great saying about retirement that I like. And yes, well, I was retirement. I said, "Oh, it's not so bad. What do you do?" He says, "Well, I don't know what I do, but it takes me all day to do it." Okay. So it just kind of gets through the day. Not very powerful in measuring it in that work aspect. But when we think of power as getting things done in a short period of time, I want to bring in another element that I hope you've heard here before. And that concept is that everything starts with our thoughts. And then it moves into what we say, our awareness. And then that kind of manifests into our actions. And before the consolidation of the airlines, that was easy to remember. Thoughts, words, actions. It's TWA, which some of you might not have any clue as what that might be. But if you're of a certain generation, that used to be an airline, TWA. But everything starts with our thoughts, moves out into what we say and kind of our awareness of that, and into our actions. And so our thoughts are very important because they're the seed of everything that we do. And so if we are still acting out in a certain way, oh, you did this, now I'm going to get angry, now I'm going to slam the door and run around and things like that. I'm not doing much. I'm expending a lot of energy. I'm not very powerful. And a lot of individuals are using up their energy, not accomplishing much. So if you put that into formula, you have a little numerator and a big denominator. And so the work power is very small. But people use up all their energy. And so maybe you've ever been in that category before. And so we have to work on our actions. What am I actually doing? What do I need to be doing? And that's kind of the habits that we change. Well, let me change my behavior. Let me start to influence the things that I do. And when we get a little better at that, practice and understanding and awareness, then we kind of move in. And it's not necessarily in this order, it can be simultaneous. But then what am I saying? Okay, I can say something, but not act on something. And that still, it doesn't mean that I'm accomplishing anything. I'm still moving up the scale of more power because I'm not wasting energy on actions that are detrimental. And if we kind of keep moving back, then I start checking my thoughts, words, actions. So I start to focus on my actions. I shouldn't do that anymore. I think I heard I should respond and not react to situations and people, see them differently. And then I should watch my words so that I'm not wasting energy in that. I'm assuming all of you have had the experience where you say something, somebody else says something, you say something, and then you're off. Okay? You just don't say anything. And then it comes to, what am I going to be thinking? And then we watch our thinking. And this is where power becomes very interesting for me. And the whole thing has been interesting. But that sense that how much do I think about something? I'm saving the energy of actions. I'm not going to speak and make the situation worse. But how much do I actually think about something? And you can probably scan through your Rolodex of problems if they have Rolodexes in it. All right. And see a variety of things that will pull your attention. But what about this? This has to be done. I haven't done that. And you're not very powerful in that moment if you're just thinking over, thinking over, thinking over. You're not doing something bad. You're not making a situation worse by saying something about it. But have you ever had that experience where you're kind of going over and over again some issue? I'm assuming you've all had that experience because we've got big issues to think about. What's going to happen in this? What's going to happen there? And it comes up. And that's what our practice of meditation is to try to substitute or change that. And if we're able to minimize the time of doing something physically, we become more powerful. If we minimize what we say, we save a lot of energy. There's power that's therefore reserved inside of us. And if we minimize the amount of thoughts we have for something, we retain spiritual, mental, spiritual, soul power. And so one is kind of conserving that, and the other is kind of creating that. So the practice of meditation, the positive thoughts, coming in here with the group, focusing our attention on this rather than something else, that's how we accumulate power. And now we're going to try to save that power by not going too much into everything, because there's a lot of everything to go into. It just mind-boggling the number of things that you have the freedom to worry about or concern yourself with. It's just, the world's a tough place right now in a lot of ways. Personal, whatever it's going to be. And there might not be a break in that, okay? I just heard today, what, this January was the hottest month again, 8 months in a row on the planet. How they measure that, I don't know. And if it's true or not, I don't know. But the fact that someone of honor and trust is saying that on the news, that, you know, the scientists are saying that things are getting hot, just, you know, there's not necessarily going to be a softening of situations in the world. You don't have to worry. You're going to have things to worry about. You're not going to run out of things to pull your attention if you want them to. You have to worry about things to worry about. But if you save that energy and minimize that, amazing things happen because you become incredibly powerful. Because if you think about something, spend some time, then in that formula, that's the time by what you've accomplished. And if you don't accomplish anything, then you have no power. And if you're thinking about something and decide to do it, in a short time, you're very powerful. But if you do things without thinking, okay? If you do things without, oh, what's going to happen with this, putting all that in, but do the right thing at the right time. And just don't spend any time thinking about what you do. That number is a 0. And how many zeros go into 100? 1. Unlimited. It's infinite. And so you become incredibly powerful. I'm not saying you shouldn't think about things, but there is this sense, and I'm going to see if I might be able to look at my thing here. You have a ball or a pen, or anybody have some? I have a pen. Okay, come on. Stand right there. Okay. Now this is going to be just stand right there. See what happens. Sometimes when things happen, you just respond. Okay, throw it back. Everybody see what you can sit down. That was great. Did everybody, you didn't see over there because his back was turned to you, but I threw him the pen And what did he do? What did you do? Okay. Did you have to process what your hands were going to do? Did you have to think about that? It just happened. You caught it. You responded and you did the right thing at the right time. I wanted him to catch it. And so there was zero thinking in that. Do you understand that? And so there wasn't any waste. Should I catch this? What's going to happen? I don't like the blue color. It's going to ink. None of that. It was just, and you can probably see others and yourself doing things because it's what you've practiced. It's automatic. It's your nature. It's just what you would do. And because there's no thinking, that formula is a zero. So that means that power is infinite, unlimited. And so what we're practicing is, how do I become full qualities? Love is this month. So that I am not thinking about being loving and I'm not processing a situation. I just am. That's who I am. Okay. I catch balls. I respond to people with love because that's all that's there with me. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to process what's going on. Okay. That's taking energy away. But if I am connected to some of my innate, original, what I would say true spiritual qualities, and love is one of the themes this month, and I am practicing that, if I am that, if I accept that, then I don't have to think about it. I'm just going to respond lovingly, and I will be incredibly powerful with that quality. Did that make some sense? Did you follow that? And so how do we get there? What happens? You know, that's our journey and our process right now. But I was kind of struck by the song. A variety of things kind of passed by me, and I was like, oh, that's kind of nice. So these flowers are pretty good. I hope you like the meditation on the blooming flowers. It's like, it's kind of nice. But that song, I believe, has an interesting aspect to it, because one of the main processes for me with Raja Yoga meditation is, what do I believe? And it has changed when I started here. I believed I was something, and now I believe something else. And if I continue to remember that I'm an eternal spiritual being, if I remember that I'm the soul, if I remember that my nature is peace and love, and if I hold that and I practice that, and I create the experiences of that, that's the process for me of meditation. Knowing something, but then using that to create something that's attractive, so that I would want more of it, so that I become that, so it's my nature, and then I don't have to think about it, and then I am that, and then I'm powerful, and then that's all I've got. And that I believe is, what do I believe? Do I believe what the world is saying, or do I believe what God is telling me? The latter. All right. It's a choice. It's America, you have free will. But that's what I would agree with that. And so if I continue to accept the words that come to me about what my true nature is, then my actions are going to change. What I say and how I think is going to change. And I'm not going to have to think about it, because that's what I've created, and that's what is going to be me, and that's my truth, and that's what's going to flow, and that's going to make me powerful. Because that's just what I do. I catch pens. I'm loving. You know? You have a problem? Well, okay, let's see what we can do. Doesn't mean I'm going to fix everything. Doesn't mean that I am not going to have ups and downs. But the other, if you saw it, video that played was a commentary about someone who did that process. And his name was Brahma. He was the first, what we call student here, Brahma Kumaris, a long time ago. Passed away at 69, kind of coming out of the remembrance of him in January, celebration 18th January. But he was someone who accepted and believed what he was told, that I am a soul, that I have come into a body, that there is a being who loves us and is teaching us what we can do, how we can become, who we were, where we've been. And in all that process, that was pretty much his journey. I believe, not going to waste time. It became very powerful and became a very good example. He was a living example of what is possible for us. And that's one of the reasons he's remembered, because he showed us it was possible. And so in that process, we start to have that awareness. It is possible for me also. And I know the formula of power, and I know what work is, and I know how I can accumulate to get strong and how I can watch what I do so I don't waste and lose that. It's all right there. I just have to do it. I have to make my own effort. And I think that's what's kind of exciting for me, is that, yeah, that is something that is possible for everybody. I've said this before, but that's how I learned to drive. Car, doing what's going on, all these things. And I stopped and I like looked and says, those guys can do it, I can do it. They're morons. It's like, you just have to start doing it. Try it. It's like, okay, and then you get used to it. Pretty soon I could drive with my knee and have. I don't do that anymore. Here's okay. Just once in a while. But we just have to say, yes, I'm going to do it. And once we say, I'm going to do it, this is what I want to do, then it becomes a lot easier. If we waste our time, then we take away our power and we won't accomplish it. We won't accomplish something if we overthink it. It's about that. I mean, that's the formula of power. Not much accomplished, a lot of time, not much happens. So if you just say, yeah, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, and then make little decisions. I'm just going to get up 5 minutes earlier today. You're already up to now. If anybody's sleeping in the back, you can get up and out. But just, I want to get up a little earlier and experience, create that feeling of, I am a being of love. And let me hold on to that. Because when you have that, that's going to affect what happens during the day. And all of a sudden, things are going to start to work out. You're going to change directions. You're going to get power. And then you're going to say, well, that wasn't so bad. There might be some days like, oh, I'm really tired, whatever. But maybe I can then stop what I was going to say to someone that would have just aggravated the situation and would take away my time and my energy, and I can hold on to that. Maybe I don't have to slam doors. Maybe I don't have to do things that I feel are necessary for me to be understood how I feel. Because I'm changing my feelings. I'm going to change my feelings and allow you to do what you want to, however it's going to be. But why should I let go of how I want to be? I want to be peaceful. I want to be happy. I want to be loving. Practice that. I become powerful in that. You do whatever you do. That's great. But that's not going to be sufficiently dominating in my life to let go of what's important to me. You have the freedom to respond, react, say. But if I practice and if I develop and if I understand and I don't waste my time and energy, then I'm going to be more powerful, and whatever you do isn't going to affect me, and I'm going to be able to do the right thing at the right time. And so that is our process. That was what Brahma Baba did, practice, let go, became, achieved, and kind of showed us the qualities of our eternal self are perfection. I want you to believe that you are perfect. You've got that inside of you. Because that kind of takes us to a tangential, interesting point to me. But if we don't think, and if we are always being, if we are always doing what is necessary in the situation, catching the pen, if there is no thoughts and that denominator is a zero, and we're infinitely powerful. And I think that's kind of a definition of God. It's not thinking, should I help these people out or not? Let me know. I don't think there's a lot of thinking in that soul. I don't think that being wonders much. It doesn't have a chin really to rub and, should I help there? What should I do? It's, I think he just does things. Whatever his task is, whatever his being is about, he does it without thinking. He does the right thing at the right time, doesn't waste any time, no time to accomplish. He just does things in the moment and therefore is unlimited, infinite. And that's probably why we remember that being, because whatever it is the role model for what we can be also. And I think that's kind of a great way to look at it. We're not becoming God, but we can be very powerful in the spiritual qualities that are innate to us and become like God. So, supreme soul, limited souls. And so in that aspect, we think too much. And one of the reasons I like that other song is, how many of you heard this song? I believe it was right before we came down. Something like, your hands work or not? No, didn't hear it. We're going to hear it again, I think. But there's something about experience and feeling, which is what our meditation's supposed to be. What we actually practice, but I hope you're practicing, is I know something and let me create an experience from that knowledge, that awareness. Because if I create an experience with that awareness, it passes by my thought process. I don't think about it. I just am immersed in that. Does that make any sense? Are you aware of what I'm moving towards and trying to say? So that the more you have an experience from what you know, then you're not going to think at all. You're just going to become that. And music has that power. Has anybody ever given a talk and you kind of got up and started dancing to it? And none of you are dancing right now, although I don't know why. But there's a difference have you ever been on the street and you hear music and you kind of get pulled to it, and there's some other energy that's happening in that process, and you're not thinking about it. You're just moving into the experience and the feeling of that. And in a way, can you take your thinking? Can you take what you know and work with it and create something inside yourself so that it has a different power? Music, it's an energy, it's a vibration, it's something else, and it passes by your conscious thinking. And so automatically, there's just something happening. And I want us to see if we can think about ourselves that way, as souls who understand something, and in this sense of the love, power of love, can I actually have that thought about what that quality is? What is love? How does it feel? What does it look like when I see it? And then be able to focus, hover, manage with that. And in that aspect, be able to access that immediately, use that in myself, and therefore become very powerful with that quality. Did that flow make some sense? We know things. Now, how do we, in our meditation, in our practice, in our reflection, use that thoughts to create a feeling and let that feeling become available and manifest itself so that I am only using that and I don't have to think about using that. And it's just my natural way. I will be infinitely power of the quality of love. We all get to the same place? Where are we? We got some time. I wanted to play that song again. I wanted to hear that song again. Are you okay with hearing that? You saw the words, if you're there, I believe. And the conversation or the song to me, it only mentions God once in there, but is how we see ourselves, how God sees us. And the more we can align our thinking with the elevated, true, eternal vision, the more we're going to change. And so, Narayan, are you up there? Can you just play us that song again? And see if you can feel the truth of that and bring out.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, oh, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. And when I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Ooh, oh, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. And you say I am held when I am falling short. When I don't belong, oh, you say I am yours. And I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You'll have every failure, God. You'll have every victory. Ooh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short. When I don't belong, oh, you
it up, maybe some feedback, questions, comments and such, but great question. What do you believe? Who do you believe? For us here, what is the source of that belief? Do you believe what others in the world tell you, or what you've thought of, or do you believe what God tells you? Love. You are full of love. That's your nature of love. And if we live that, don't think too much about it, and just experience it and become it, we will be powerful with that. So that's what the world needs now. Loving, powerful souls. So
Anyone comment or question? Don't be shy if you have a question and you need clarification. Zoomers, the chat is open to you also.
Earlier in your talk, you said you used to believe one thing, then you started Raja Yoga meditation, and you think differently now.
yes,
So if it's not too personal, could you go into a little more detail about before and after?
well, it's fairly simple, and I hope it's the same process for you. Is that I grew up being taught or learning whatever it was that I should identify with the physical, because I was carrying around somehow with me something called a soul. And my actions in life would dictate the future of that entity that was not me. Would go to heaven or would go to hell. All right. So I wasn't clear on what it was, but kind of got the idea that I had to behave. Because that's what everybody was saying I should do. And so I learned that I was taught to identify with the body and that the soul was something separate from myself. I was also taught that both of those existed, which is kind of interesting. But it was a big change for me when somebody else said, well, you know, why don't you flip this? Identify with the spiritual. And when you leave the body, then the body is, you know, dust to dust. And so why would you identify with that and not the thing that is actually the living being? And that was quite profound for me. The re-identification of who I am. And so I saw myself as a spiritual being, soul with a body, as opposed to a body with a soul. And so that was kind of, the light goes on, big change. This is true. This is kind of telling me what I knew, even though I didn't know I was thinking about that question. Here's the answer. I didn't have a question. And so that's how that worked out. That's sufficient.
Anyone else?
Thoughts, comments, inspirations, you want to sing, that's all good.
After Jennifer, I'll tell you, I have a little bit of an unusual sense of humor myself. Anybody thinking of the word blurt while he was speaking?
So, um, well, I'm going to try to make this as positive as possible, but obviously we're living in some very strenuous, stressful, intense times. And I had a situation today. I do a lot of work at libraries, which are wonderful, beautiful, peaceful places. And I had a situation where I started blurting, and it was like, who was doing all this talking? And I think it was related to anxiety. And, you know, the person that I was talking to was a very compassionate woman and who worked in the field of recovery and mental health and whatever. But this, you know, at the end of this, it lasted for like a minute or two. I was post-observing myself and saying, oh my God, you know, talk about a loss of energy, right? But I had no control over it. And I felt like it was some kind of almost like trauma dumping, you know, like hey, you're having so much stress in your life and you're not talking about it. And so somebody safe shows up and you're, there's this water.
So if I heard right, you were talking in the library. Okay, and very good.
You and 25 other teenagers if school is out. They're very noisy places these days.
Right? It was the nature of this.
She used my word. Can I respond briefly to that?
Sure.
Okay, so the reason blurt was coming up for me so much in my wry sense of humor was that that's what I always did when I wasn't coming from a place of soul consciousness. That's got to be made very clear. I think you have to be coming from your innate place. Otherwise, your body and your ego and your fears and your and all of a sudden the tail is wagging the dog. But I was sitting there kind of smiling, wondering how many of the 30 or 40 of us, including the Zoomers, say, well, what do you mean I can't think? I shouldn't think before I talk? Just do it. Well, that meant blurting most of my young adult life for sure.
Yeah, just blurting out what's in your head isn't necessarily the right where there's a process, and you get to a place where the thoughts that you would have and the way you would see things is only going to be a natural, loving place. It doesn't come by just saying, okay, now I'm going to be loving. Okay.
Even though it's innate and natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we are. Any Zoomer chat comments or questions? Just unmute yourself, can they?
Should be able to.
Yeah. No, I'm not
Maybe
with
not.
them.
Narayan, did you unmute allow the participants?
No, we had a few comments about how beautiful this was.
All right, great.
Can they?
They should be able to if they want.
Okay. Oh, I have two chats. What is this?
Just to kind of, the world is changing. And I saw an advertisement, and it is about power of talking to someone, or something, I guess I should say. And they now have AI psychiatrists online, and you can have a chat. And what they were saying is in New York, I think it's city or state, 13 to 17-year-olds can have the access free. So if you need someone to talk to, if you need to engage and share and blurt things out or have someone listen to you, there's now I don't know if it's a website or it's an app or something, but you're talking to AI.
AI.
And it's going to respond and listen, and so
How do you feel about that?
I'm hopeful that someone who feels that they should take their life or the life of others would use that first. And if you feel good about it, great. Because it's an interesting process. What are the thoughts you create and give to yourself? Are they elevated? Are they loving? Are they nourishing? Are they, and if you're not getting that, why is this happening? Like in that song, this is how I see myself. This is how I look at myself. It takes energy, and all of a sudden you're susceptible to whatever it is. And I think a lot of mental illness, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, because of the conversations people have with themselves or don't have with anybody else, or are fed from others that aren't positive. So if someone is going to benefit with a positive experience talking to some entity that is going to be encouraging, sounds great. Because the alternatives of holding it in or blaming things and that sense of being, the world has wronged me, or why not me, or how come this has happened? And if you hold on to that, the anger and this, explode. And there's a lot of it, fortunately. So I hope it helps. And I hope that you are helping yourself, feeding yourself good thoughts. Who am I? What's it like? Who loves me? What's that experience like? Let me make that into my being. And why not be infinitely loving? Just all the time.
My first priority isn't defending myself or egotistical. Then we can actually, and we learn it here, drop out of that game. And then you can be feeling good no matter how the person is behaving with the same. Yeah, well, this is very enlightening, and we've got a lot of beautiful, beautiful comments about how beautiful it is. Would you like to, I just want to announce next week, we have Sister Niti, who's going to be talking about love, because it's Valentine's Day coming up. Yeah.
So why don't we conclude for the evening with just a little reflection and a little silence, but you've heard a lot tonight. And that sense is, what do you believe? Can you offer yourself that thought that I believe in God's vision of myself? That I am elevated, that I am loved, and that I'm loving, and that I am powerful. Hold those thoughts. See yourself with that eye. And move into that experience. And make that a thought to truth. I am powerful, loving, spiritual being. See with that. Speak from that awareness. My actions be based on that awareness. And as I practice that, it will be automatic. And I just do it at the right time. And I will be powerful. Well, tomorrow you start out great and it continue forever. Shanti, thanks for coming. Take care, everyone. Okay, sure.
Sherry said, yes, thank you, Brother Eric. That's great. It takes time to turn around lifetimes of negative self-talk. It does, and it takes practice.
We're great.
Yeah.
What if this negative self-talk is coming through what people are telling you and what they are telling you to believe in? So coming back to what you were trying to explain today, believe in what God is trying to tell you, not believe in what people are saying. But if people are continuously telling you, speaking from my personal experience, that you are harsh, your tone is not right for any environment. And if everybody's saying that, isn't that part of my personality? Maybe it's my defense mechanism. Maybe I don't know. But is it like, should I believe in that and should I work on it, or should I because just by saying believe in God and what God is trying to tell me, it's not helping me. There is something that I need to work on, because that's why everybody's telling me.
And if people tell you something, evaluate the truth in that. What are they saying and why are they helping? Is this something that I can look at? If everybody's telling you something, maybe there is something about that. Maybe not. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that if I now know that I am loving at the core, that that means that I've accessed that and I have that ability. So yeah, if there's feedback around, evaluate that and listen to it and see, how that resonates. And maybe someday, say, well, now I see it, so maybe I can change. Okay. Yeah. And I had a friend one time who had, and I'm not saying this is the situation, but for some reason, she didn't feel that she was heard. And so it took a lot of energy for her to speak. And when she had that energy speaking, she was always shouting at everybody because it was so hard to talk. And everybody thought, that who she was this gruff, rough person, but she was so meek that it took so much energy that she came across differently than she felt. And so there was a huge difference in self-awareness and how it was perceived by others. So listening to others gives you good feedback. But the issue wasn't that she was shouting all the time, but it was more how she saw herself. Okay. And so it's quite fascinating because very nice, very meek, would say, but it took so much energy and then it kind of burst out of her. Louise, how you doing?
I just knew it. I'm really, you're contagious. Because I'm sitting here thinking about the song.
It wasn't Louise. It was somebody else.
Now they'll never believe you. You've lost all your
Yeah.
credibility. But
I kind of drifted apart and this was a while ago, so I'm not sure, but I'm,
very funny. But I would just want to say one thing about the song, just to get this off me for a minute. I've got this warped sense of humor tonight, but if you listen to that song and you imagine it's a woman speaking about her lover, her companion, it's a sick relationship. But if you think about, tell me if you agree. If you think about it being her having a conversation with God, the male patriarch, perfect voice, it's quite a loving song. Did anybody play that game too, where you imagine that she's this codependent, really weak-willed person, unless you realize that the perfect lover is talking to her?
Starts that way. It's possible. And so hope to see you soon again. Hope your month is full of love and may you all be powerful.
Yes. And we do have a blessing and Toli, blessing if you like, and Toli as you leave, our sweets. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Very good. Good night. Okay.
To the guest. Thanks a lot, brother Eric.